Hey, what's going on, guys? And happy Tuesday. So, today we're going to talk about how to maintain inner peace on a daily basis. So, let's jump right into this. Is it easy to maintain peace like every day? No. Most days you feel crazy. Most days you feel like, man, you know what? I'm holding on. I'm holding on, about like just this much, Something comes along or someone comes along, pisses you off, makes you angry, makes you upset. You see something on social media. The other day I saw a woman who was it was on social media. I think it was like Facebook. Somebody sent it to me. A woman being beat by her boyfriend or her husband in a dressing room. And, it made me so angry, and I was like, what I thought to myself, I was like, man, how can, we live in a world where everything is filmed, right? But my thing is, I understand that it's filmed, but there has to be people watching this, right? And no one stepped in, no one did anything. They just let it happen. And when I saw that, I realized that, we live in a world where people just they don't care. They care about what makes them, what's interesting, what's intriguing, what's exciting. That's what they care about. They're not worried about that this is a real person going through real things. When the guy was finished, beating her, she was bloody and everything, and no one stepped in. And so that pissed me off. I was upset for at least a couple of days, And, maintaining peace is not easy, because what I realized is that that's the reason why I don't watch the news. I get surprised when it rains, right? Because I don't even watch the Weather Channel. I just be like, ooh, rain, But when you see things in life, or people come at you the wrong way, or pisses you off or make you upset, it's very easy to become angry. It's very easy to lose your peace. Now, here's another reason why you might lose your peace. Sometimes you just around bad people, you're around people with bad energy, right? And what does that mean? Well, here's what it means. Most people who have bad energy are going through spiritual transformation within themselves. And while they're going through this spiritual transformation, they usually, are angry because they have to go through it. So they take it out on other people, like you or me or, whoever else is watching this. And they take it out on you because they don't know where else to put it. They can't put it on themselves because they're going through it, right? It's almost like a pregnant woman who's mad at you, right? You thinking to yourself, it's like, it can't be that bad. But then, she, the voice of the devil comes out of her. You would understand how I feel. That start happening. You just be like, oh God, Jesus. So then you just be like, okay, this, must be pretty bad. So that's what happens. Naturally, when you're an empathetic person, you absorb negative energy. That's what happens to me all the time. If I'm on the phone with somebody, if I'm hanging out with somebody, around friends, family, you name it. I absorb their energy. And I think the pros with that is it just comes with you being a caring person, actually caring, actually, just even thinking about wanting to help somebody. It's very easy to absorb all of their anxiety, all their frustration, take it on as if it's your own. But the truth is, it's not. So, how do you maintain peace on a daily basis? Well, I'm going to tell you how I do it. First thing I do, I am very, very selective about who I talk to. I'm selective about who I deal with on a daily basis. I'm selective about who I let into my energy force field, right? And the reason why I am is because deep down, even if you're a nice person, you're really not nice. You're just trying to stay nice, right? But you're really not nice. It only take one little thing that send you to cell block D. Just one little thing. Don't take much. And so when you're nice, I think nice people really are the craziest people. And let me tell you why I say this. Because angry people or extroverts, they get their stuff off right away. They don't even care who around. They don't care, you know what I mean? They'll cuss you out right in front of, whoever. Doesn't even matter. That's why your mama was a hoe. It's like, whoa, you really gonna say that right here in front of the church, right next to the pastor, next to this person, that person? Yeah, they'll say it. And, you look at them and you be like, dang, I wish I could say that. But that was just wrong. Why did you say that? That was horrible. But then, you have your moments as an introverted person where you really want to cuss somebody out, but you can't. You can't cuss them out because if you cuss them out, you're not a nice person no more. They don't like you no more. They look at you like, oh, you're crazy. But truth is, you are crazy, right? But you're just trying a little bit more than everybody else. Just a little bit. It ain't special, but it's just a little bit more than everybody else. Because you know that, it's wrong, or you know what it's like to be on the other end, and you're empathetic, and you care, and you're sensitive. You understand what I'm saying? You wish you could jump and choke somebody, but you know what? You can't, because now you got to watch other people just jump and choke people. And you look at them, and you're like, dang, I wish I could jump and choke somebody. Well, guess I got to be nice. And that's what happens. Being nice ain't easy. I'm sure there's a lot of people that's going to watch this and going to say, you know what, you were right. I know. But what is it about maintaining peace, and how do you do it? You got to realize that being peaceful or having peace is not a constant state of stillness. It is a state of alignment and harmony. That's what creates peace. We think it's balance, but balance doesn't create peace. Balance creates tension. I'm going to give you an example. If you have a person who's holding one weight on one side and having another weight on the other side, after a while, because that person in the middle holding both weights, after a while, the tension becomes overwhelming for them. If you think about, I don't know if anybody here is religious or biblical or ever read the Bible, but just to give you, for instance, with Adam and Eve, right? Eve, she went and ate the apple. The serpent said, you're going to be like God, knowing good and bad. Well, here's the truth. Good and bad is based on duality. And duality is based on balance. Because what God wanted for us was to have alignment, harmony, and peace. But because we wanted to, or Eve, I should say, wanted to be like God, knowing good and bad, she now understood right and wrong, light and dark, positive and negative. And so inadvertently, it created tension, and that tension created sin. And so naturally, when we're around each other as human beings, we absorb each other's sin on a consistent basis. That's why we struggle. That's why, like, everybody's really not quote unquote right or wrong, because we're not in their situation. So we can't know. I can't know what this person went through or what that person went through, what their upbringing is, or what their mental health is, or whether they were depressed or whether they lost their job that made them do this one thing. You don't know. But to have that thought process requires for you to develop and maintain harmony and maintain alignment and maintain peace. Maintaining peace is really all about you accepting that you are doing the best you can. And it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It just has to make sense to you. It has to feel good to you. You need to maintain your relationship with God or the higher power, whatever you believe in, or your higher self. You need to maintain that relationship. And you're going to be uncomfortable, but you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable with growing into the next version of you. I'm going to leave you guys with this. I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about, what is your higher self? And your higher self is a version of you that you haven't met yet. And she asked me, well, how do you know that that's the version you need to become? And I said to her, well, if you look back to when you were a kid, do you think that when you were a kid and look at you when you were a kid and look at you now, did you think you would be who you are today? She said no. And I said, that's the higher version of you, and you're living that version of you now. And so your highest self is truly the evolution of your own existence. In order to maintain your peace, you have to be constantly seeking the version of your highest existence, right? And the peace is not you looking for externally. It's going inward. You're on a journey internally, a subconscious journey, a spiritual journey, a soul journey. You're on this journey of finding you. And that is what creates peace on a daily basis. I hope this was helpful. Again, I love you guys. I appreciate all the support and the love. Please like, comment, follow. I love for you guys, just follow me. And if you got any, topics you want me to discuss, please feel free, DM me, let me know. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.